This is in I CBS Sports HQ. Brandon Aiyuk, according to our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, will report to 49ers training camp. There's been a lot of questions about Brandon Aiyuk over this offseason, talking about his dislike, about his relationship between him and the 49ers, ultimately requesting a trade. Many wondered if he was going to be a holdout, potentially a hold-in, or if he would be traded. But again, according to Jonathan Jones, he will, in fact, report to camp. Here's more from Kyle Shanahan today.
Has Aiyuk reported? Do you expect him to report if he hasn't?
Well, they still have another hour and change, until, so I don't know if he is here, but we expect all our players to report and be here.
Has there been any understanding with him that you will continue to negotiate? Is there any, to get...
We've had great communication. We started this really early. We made it a priority to try to get done. We've had excellent communication throughout. Really don't want to characterize. We haven't been able to, and that's a shame. But Brandon's a big part of our team, and we expect that he will be this year.
Is there a possibility that you do some sort of restructuring like you did with Raheem Mostert back in the past?
Everything's a possibility. We not gonna get into negotiations, and there's, as Kyle says, there's no absolutes. So we're open to anything, and like I said, Brandon's a big part of this team, and we expect that he will be going forward.
John, do you know yet whether he'll practice once he reports, or whether
we expect all our players to practice?
John, last year you gave us an absolute that Bosa would not be traded. Would you make that same statement about Brandon?
Well, Kyle and I always, we kind of, I did say that with Bosa, and I felt that way, but, I think, again, no absolutes there. We fully intend on Brandon being a Niner moving forward. We're always open to listen to things. But like I said, we expect Brandon to be an integral part of our team like he has been, and excited about that.
Kyle, Bosa mentioned last year that he thought maybe, obviously, a really long negotiation that did affect him during the season, saw his numbers go down. Debo has mentioned, during his contractual offseason that kind of threw off his season that followed. Are you concerned this could happen with Aiyuk or anybody, but specifically Aiyuk?
Anytime you, don't get to practice like you're used to, and the NFL season's real hard, so anytime you don't really get to prepare the right way in training camp, it's a challenge for all those players, and the tons of players have gone through it. Some have bigger challenges than others. Each one's different. I don't remember Debo missing much. I think we got him done the first couple days, from what I remember. Bosa, just, the way a D lineman is, I think is a little bit different, but then getting in football shape, no matter how hard you work out, it's tough. It's tough to catch up throughout the season. So both of those guys have their individual experiences with it. It never helps, but it's something that's not a new thing. It's something you got to deal with.
Kyle, when Debo requested a trade a couple of years ago, you were asked why you were confident it would work itself out, and you said that you have a personal relationship with him, and you hadn't even talked to him yet. Why are you confident that you can work things out with Aiyuk if things get bumpy?
I don't remember exactly, and knowing you, I don't know if I exactly said that, but I don't remember. But I have a personal relationship with all our players, and you like to be able to talk with those guys. And usually, when it does get close, it can work out. And I would feel the same with Brandon. I've known Brandon here for 4 years. I'm going in our 5th year together, and got a lot of love for BA. I think I'm close with them, and hopefully that can help, but it only can help so much. There's also a business side to it, and but when you do have relationships with people, it helps.
You've only been able to work at these huge contracts for the star players like Bosa and Debo in the past. Has this been one of the more challenging ones that you've faced since you've come to Santa Clara?
I think first of all, I think it's important to note we're fortunate to be in this position where we have a lot of talented players, so you have to have these conversations. This one has been challenging. As I said, we set it out. We started it earlier than we have in the past, made it a priority. And there's a lot of dynamics. I'm not going to get into all of them, but there's a lot of dynamics as to why it's been challenging. And, the fifth-year option is something we all sign up for when you have a first-round pick, and that's been out there. But we've tried diligently to get this done. We haven't been able to get there. That's what I've learned from my past experiences for the last 7 years, going into our 8th, is that sometimes when you think there's no way this thing's going to progress, they do. Sometimes when you think all right, this thing's done tomorrow, it's not. So you just keep going. You stay in communication, and you understand that it's a business. I've been in their shoes. I know where they're at. I know the challenges. I take a lot of pride in having things done so that our team can focus on the job at hand, and it hurts me when that's not always done at this time of year, so I understand that. But again, I think we're in a fortune. We've got a lot of talented players, and we've rewarded a lot. So it does become more challenging in time when you've rewarded so many players. So, but that's also why this is a very good team that has such high expectations.
From the outside, it would seem like the amount of receivers that have signed around the league would maybe make it easier. Has it in fact actually made it harder? And is there concern that this is pushing the price to a place that you aren't willing to go?
No, I wouldn't say that. And again, I'm not going to get into the specifics. I think there's a privacy that is earned, and I always go back to I didn't like my business being aired out, so I'm not going to get into the specifics. There's certainly markets that happen and developments that happen that affect, but we also have our own roster, and like I said, we've rewarded a lot of players, so things do get more challenging. We put our best foot forward, but both sides have to come to agreement. We haven't been able to do that yet, and so where that goes, we'll see.
What do you expect the timeline to be for Ricky with that hamstring injury?
I think we feel pretty confident he's in a good place. We kind of work in blocks. Our thought is that he misses the first block, and then on that second block, but we're not going to put him out there. That's on our trainers, our performance staff, and we won't put him out there too early. On that note, Ben Peterson moved on to the Atlanta Hawks. We thank Ben for all his contributions. We'll announce formally what their titles are and all that, but Dustin Little, our head athletic trainer, and Dustin Perry will be taking that kind of in a dual role, and we're excited about that. Those are good people that we've got a good system in place, and those guys will be taking the reins.
John, with these extensions, it seems like you are comfortable taking your time with them as long as it takes. Other teams seem to be doing them as soon as a player becomes eligible. Why do you like to take your time with these extensions?
I don't. I'm impatient, and it's I like going. And I think, again, we've had a lot of really talented players, and it's, I think, put our track record against anybody in terms of getting players signed. I wish it could happen quicker, but I'm proud of our record.
One thing you did get done during the offseason was Christian McCaffrey. How important was it for both of you to make sure you have him around?
He's a pretty good football player.
Very important.
Yeah.
It's always tough with all this stuff, just everything that the question guy is asking pertaining to contracts and stuff, and that's a whole challenge that you got to understand the market and how that works in the league, and you also got to understand what works for our team and how to build your own team with it. And there's two things that you're constantly weighing, and it's not easy to figure out, and there's never an obvious right way or wrong way. You try to figure out the best way, and a lot of stuff goes into that. And to be able to get Christian here with what he's done the last couple of years and what we plan on him doing for the next few years, we were really excited to get that done and felt great about it.
From the outside, when a guy makes a trade request and other social media comments, it's like, oh, this is not going well. There's a real huge impasse. The fact that he appears to be going to be showing up and maybe just holding in, is that at least a sign to you is that an optimistic sign of where he might be?
Yeah, I always want to be optimistic, Eric. This has been a tough one. I think it's been hard to find that common evidence by us not having a deal in place when we both have tried. So I guess we're going to continue to work towards finding resolution, and not optimistic, not pessimistic. Just going to keep attacking it and trying to find the right endpoint for each of us, and leave it at that.
Just a clarification on Pearsall. You said PUP. Is it NFI or?
NFI, yeah. Treated the same way as PUP, but because he did it away from here, NFI.
And How long is a block of a practice?
It's really like the first 3 or 4 days.
Everyone in the league has to do 4 days, and then you get a day off, and he'll be in there. Hopefully, he'll be in there in the next 3, at least ease him into there.
How are Kittle, Charvarius Ward, and Brendel coming? Will they have any restrictions of any kind?
I will be smart with them, but I mean, they're all 100% healed and stuff. You just got to be careful how you get them back in, and but they'll have some days off and stuff like that, but they're all good to go.
You were remarking about Bosa, and you said getting defensive linemen ready is a little bit different. How so?
I mean, I think each team's differently. Each team's different. But I would say, I'd say a kicker, you want to worry about it all because they're not tied to many other people. I think a D lineman, especially, with the 4-down scheme and the way we play it, it's a little more individual based and stuff. Now you got to get back into football shape and the movement and stuff. But as far as an O lineman, when you're moving in combination with the guy next to you, or sometimes both guys next to you, 3 people, and you have to zone stuff off. It takes longer to build guys together and things like that at other positions. D line, not that any of them are good. I would say I'd put probably behind kicker at that.